You know what's wild? Most people spend their entire lives thinking happiness is something out there, like a prize they'll finally get once everything lines up. Once the job comes through, once the money is better, once that relationship finally feels right, once the kids are older, once the house is bigger, once the stress dies down. But here's the trap: it never lines up perfectly. Life always finds a way to throw something new at you. So if your happiness depends on that external checklist being completed, you'll always be waiting. You'll always be one step behind joy. But here's where the shift happens. Happiness is not just what happens to you, it's what happens through you. And one of the fastest, most overlooked ways you can change how you feel is how you communicate. Not just with others, though that matters too, but with yourself. And if you think that sounds too simple, let me tell you, I've seen it play out in the courtroom, in my office, and in my own life. Words are not just filler. They're fuel. They're not just sound waves bouncing around. They're signals. Signals your brain listens to and says, okay, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And most people walk through their day completely unaware that the language they use is programming their own emotional state. They complain without realizing every complaint is carving a deeper groove of dissatisfaction. They criticize themselves without realizing every harsh phrase they whisper internally is tightening the chains of self-doubt. And then they wonder why they're stressed, anxious, or just drained. Here's the truth: you cannot always control circumstances, but you can always control communication. And if you shift your communication, you shift your mood. That's not motivational fluff, that's neuroscience. Your words literally create your experience of reality. Let me give you an example. Think about two people walking into the same situation. Let's say it's pouring rain outside. One person throws their arms up and goes, of course it had to rain today. This day is ruined. The other one laughs and says, hey, at least the plants are getting watered. And I get an excuse to wear my favorite jacket. Same weather, same rain. Completely different mood, and the only difference, the words they chose. Now some of you are thinking, okay, Jefferson, are you saying I just need to be positive all the time? Fake it till I make it? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not about toxic positivity. I'm about intentional communication. You don't have to pretend everything is perfect. But you do need to understand that the way you phrase reality becomes the way you feel reality. And that's why the first hack I want to give you is this: flip your complaints into gratitude. It sounds small, it sounds too easy, but I promise you, it's one of the fastest ways to boost your mood instantly. Because complaining has a very clear effect on your body and your brain. Complaints are like digging holes. You go deeper and deeper into frustration. Gratitude, on the other hand, lifts you. It pulls your perspective higher. Now let's be real, complaining is natural. We all do it. The traffic was terrible. The coffee order got messed up. The internet was slow. The meeting went on forever. It's so easy to vent, to roll our eyes, to say, you won't believe the day I've had, and I get it. I've done it. But here's the kicker. When you complain, you don't just broadcast your frustration to other people. You broadcast it to yourself. Your brain hears your words and takes them as instructions. If you say, this is the worst, your brain says, okay, let's treat it like the worst. But when you flip it into gratitude, even in the smallest way, your brain starts releasing different chemicals: dopamine, serotonin, that little lift. And you don't have to climb a mountain to do it. You just need to flip the sentence. So instead of traffic was a nightmare, you say, I'm grateful I got here safely. Instead of this meeting was pointless, you say, I got a chance to contribute, even in a small way. Instead of this line is taking forever, you say, I've got a few minutes to breathe. And some of you are rolling your eyes at this. I know. You're thinking, that's corny, Jefferson. That's too simple. But think about it. Why would you resist something that's free, instant, and effective? Let me tell you about a client of mine. She was in corporate, high-stress job, deadlines always looming. Every conversation we had was filled with complaints. Her boss didn't get it. Her coworkers were lazy. The workload was impossible. And I didn't dismiss those things. They were real frustrations. But I asked her, "What's one thing you can flip today into gratitude?" And she paused. She said, "Well, I guess I do get to learn skills here that will make me more marketable." That was it. That was the start. The next week she came back and said, "I've been trying that flip and I notice I'm not carrying the same heaviness into my evenings." That's the power. Not in pretending your problems don't exist, but in choosing not to give them the microphone. And here's something fascinating. Gratitude also changes the way people respond to you. If you're the one in the office always sighing, rolling your eyes, grumbling under your breath, guess what? People don't want to be around you. That isolation makes you feel worse. But when you're the one who finds something to appreciate, people gravitate toward you. They like being around you. And that social connection, that boosts your mood even further. So let's get practical. How do you make this stick? You create what I call the complaint flip. Every time you catch yourself about to complain, you stop and you ask, okay, what's the gratitude flip here? It doesn't have to be profound. It can be simple. This coffee's cold, but hey, at least I have coffee. This project is stressful, but I'm learning resilience. This drive is long, but it gives me time to listen to music or a podcast. That's it. That's the flip. And if you do it consistently, you'll notice your mood shifts faster than you think. And let's not miss the deeper layer here, because gratitude isn't just about mood, it's about training your brain. You're rewiring yourself to see possibility where you used to see problems. And that skill compounds. Suddenly, you're not just handling traffic better, you're handling life better. But let's go deeper, because complaints don't just show up in how we talk about the world, they show up in how we talk to ourselves. And that brings me to the second hack, maybe the most important one of all: speak to yourself like a friend. Listen, we are all fluent in one toxic language: self-criticism. Nobody talks to you harsher than you talk to yourself. And if you don't believe me, think about the last time you messed up. Maybe you missed a deadline. Maybe you said something awkward in a conversation. Maybe you dropped the ball on something small. What did that inner voice say? "You're such an idiot. You always screw this up. Why can't you just get it together?" Now pause. Imagine saying those exact words to your best friend. Would you? Of course not. If your friend said, "I messed up," you wouldn't say, "You're so stupid, you always fail." You'd say, "Hey, it's okay. Everyone messes up. You'll get it next time." You'd encourage them. You'd remind them of their worth. But when it comes to ourselves, we turn into the harshest judge and jury we could ever face. And here's the problem. Your brain listens. Every insult you throw at yourself sinks in. Every "I'm worthless" gets filed away. Every "I'll never get it right" becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you wonder why your mood is low, why you feel heavy, why joy feels out of reach. It's because you're poisoning your own well. But here's the shift. Speak to yourself like a friend. Replace "I'm such a failure" with "I'm learning." Replace "I can't do this" with "This is hard, but I'll figure it out." Replace "I always screw up" with "I didn't get it right this time, but I can try again." And I know, some of you are thinking, "Jefferson, that feels fake." But listen, it's not fake, it's fair. You're not lying to yourself. You're giving yourself the same fairness you'd give someone you love. Think about the last time you were in a conversation where the energy of the other person dragged you down. Maybe you woke up in a good mood. Maybe you were ready to take on the day, and then you crossed paths with someone who sighed their way through every sentence. Ugh, traffic was awful. I'm so tired. This day is already ruined. And before you knew it, you started to feel it too. Their gloom started to leak into your own mood, and suddenly your shoulders were heavier, your tone flatter, your spark dimmer. That's the power of communication. It's contagious. And if you're not intentional, someone else's energy can hijack your state of mind before you even realize it. Now, here's the shift I want you to see. You don't have to let someone else set the emotional thermostat. You get to set it. And the way you do that is through small but powerful communication choices that reinforce joy, optimism, and control. That's what the third key is all about. It's about taking back authority over the tone of your conversations. Because here's the truth, whoever controls the tone often controls the outcome. When you start responding in ways that redirect negativity instead of soaking it in, you protect your mood. And more than that, you begin to shape the interaction itself. For example, when someone comes at you with constant complaints, you don't have to bite. You can pivot. If someone says everything is going wrong, you don't have to agree, pile on, and match their despair. You can acknowledge and then reroute. Yeah, it's been a tough morning, but you know what? I'm glad we're getting through it together. That's not fake positivity. That's leadership. That's choosing not to surrender your state of mind to their negativity. Think about how freeing that is. Instead of being a sponge, absorbing whatever energy someone else brings, you become a mirror that reflects back something better. And the beautiful thing is, this isn't just for them, it's for you. Because every time you refuse to give negativity more airtime, you protect your own mental real estate. You're telling yourself, my peace matters, my joy matters, and I'm not going to casually give it away. That's not selfish. It's stewardship of your emotional health. This is where communication hacks transform into life hacks. It's not just about words. It's about anchoring yourself to the version of you that you want to live in. And that version doesn't crumble at the first sign of pessimism in the room. That version holds steady, even shifts the air around you. Because here's the thing, when you carry light, people notice. And when you consistently bring that into conversations, it not only boosts your mood, it raises the whole room. But let's get practical, because I know some of you are thinking, Jefferson, that sounds good, but what do I actually say? Here's the answer. You don't need scripts, you need anchors. You need go-to pivots that remind you that your mood is yours to protect. Simple phrases like, I hear you, but here's what I'm focusing on, or that sounds tough, but I'm grateful for this part of my day. These aren't cliches, they're redirects. They don't dismiss the other person, but they don't let you sink either. Here's what's even more powerful. The consistency of this habit rewires your own brain. The more you redirect conversations toward gratitude, toward possibility, toward perspective, the more your brain begins to default to those pathways. It becomes your reflex, and over time you'll notice your baseline mood rises. You won't just be reacting to the world, you'll be creating the world you walk into. And that's the real trick here. Communication isn't just an exchange of words, it's an exchange of energy. Every conversation is a chance to decide, will I give power to negativity or will I inject possibility? And the more you choose the latter, the more you train yourself to stay rooted in joy no matter what storm someone else is bringing to the table. Here's the part most people miss. When you reframe a conversation, you're not just changing words, you're literally rewiring the brain in real time. And I want you to sit with that for a second. Words are not passive. They are triggers. They light up different regions of the brain depending on how they're used, which means every time you redirect a negative statement into a constructive one, you're not just being positive. You're triggering an entirely different chemical reaction inside your own body. Let's break it down. When someone dumps negativity on you and you soak it in, your brain interprets it as a form of threat. Stress hormones like cortisol get released. Your heart rate ticks up. Your muscles tense. You're ready for defense, even if it's not a physical threat. You've essentially told your nervous system, we're under attack. That's why negativity feels heavy. It's your biology bracing for impact. But when you reframe, when you acknowledge the gloom but introduce perspective, you short-circuit that process. You give your brain a different signal. Instead of spiraling, you release dopamine, the chemical tied to motivation and hope. You tap into serotonin, which stabilizes mood. And if you keep doing it, over time your brain learns. This is how we respond. This is our default. That's not motivational fluff. That's neuroscience. And here's the kicker, it doesn't just change you, it changes the person across from you too. Why? Because humans are wired for mirror neurons. When you smile, when you speak calmly, when you shift tone, the other person's brain starts to mirror that. You've seen it happen 1,000 times without even realizing it. Someone yawns, you yawn. Someone laughs, you start smiling even if you didn't hear the joke. Someone panics, you feel panic rising in your own chest. That's the power of mirror neurons, which means when you choose reframing, you don't just boost your mood, you invite theirs to follow. Now let's get honest, does this always work? No. Some people are so locked into their negativity that your reframing won't budge them. But here's where the real magic happens. Even if they don't change, you do. You walk away with your peace intact. You prove to yourself that you're not at the mercy of their storm. And that inner proof builds confidence. Because the first time you try it, it feels clunky. The 10th time, it feels natural. And the 100th time, it feels like freedom. This is why I keep telling people communication isn't just about others, it's about you. When you reframe, you're not sugarcoating reality, you're strengthening resilience. You're reminding your brain that you always have options. Negativity says, this is it, this is the only lens. Reframing says, no, there's always another way to see this. And that belief alone is enough to shift you out of despair and back into power. And here's another layer most don't talk about: reframing changes your identity. Because every time you make the choice to pull a conversation upward, you cast a vote for the kind of person you are. If you do it once, it's a behavior. If you do it enough times, it becomes character. You're no longer someone who sometimes gets thrown off. You become someone who's known for steadiness, optimism, perspective. And people feel it. They gravitate toward it. You see why this matters? Because mood isn't random. It's not something you have to wait for. It's something you can generate, and reframing is one of the fastest generators you have. You can take the exact same situation, traffic jam, long workday, frustrating coworker, and instead of feeding the stress response, you can feed the calm. Instead of joining the chorus of complaints, you can become the anchor in the room. And once you've done this enough, your mood doesn't just improve in the moment. It stays elevated because your brain starts to predict when stress shows up, we know what to do. We redirect, we reframe, we choose possibility. And that prediction keeps you lighter, steadier, and far more in control than the average person who thinks moods just happen to them. Step 1, slow your reaction. This is the hardest part because everything in your body wants to respond right away. The words are on the tip of your tongue. But reframing only works if you give your brain enough space to catch the negativity before it catches you. And here's the trick, you don't have to pause for 10 seconds. Sometimes even a 2-second pause is enough to let your mind switch gears. That pause is your first superpower. It's like buying yourself a second of oxygen in the middle of the fire. Step 2, acknowledge reality. Reframing is not about denial. If someone says, this project is a disaster, you don't respond with, no, it's perfect. That's not reframing, that's gaslighting. Instead, you validate the frustration. You can say, yeah, it's tough. Or, I see where it's messy. That acknowledgement disarms the other person because they don't feel dismissed. It's the equivalent of saying, "I hear you." And once they feel heard, they're far more open to your redirect. Step 3, add perspective. This is where the reframe happens. You pivot the lens. Yeah, it's tough, but we're learning what doesn't work. Or, I see where it's messy, but at least we caught it early. You're not erasing the problem, you're contextualizing it. You're putting the weight back into balance. And what that does is introduce possibility into the conversation. Suddenly, instead of spiraling deeper into frustration, you've opened the door to hope. Step 4, choose tone over words. You could have the perfect reframe in your head, but if your tone is sarcastic, dismissive, or sharp, it won't land. Tone is the vehicle your words ride in. If your vehicle is broken, the message never makes it to the destination. That's why practice matters. Say it calmly. Say it like you believe it. Say it with a tone that invites instead of argues, because tone has a way of bypassing defenses that words alone can't. Step 5, practice in low-stakes situations first. Don't wait until a heated argument with your partner to test this out. Start small. When your barista says, "Sorry, we're out of oat milk," practice reframing. That's okay, it'll be fun to try something new. When a coworker says, "Wug, Mondays are the worst," you can respond, "Hey, it just means we're one step closer to Friday." These little reps build muscle. And when you've built enough muscle, you'll be strong enough to handle the heavier situations. Now, here's the part I love. Reframing isn't just a tool you pull out when things go wrong. It's a way of living. It's waking up and saying, "I get to," instead of "I have to." It's meeting obstacles with curiosity instead of dread. It's teaching your kids, your team, your friends by example that life may not always give us control over circumstances, but we always have control over perspective. That's leadership. That's resilience. And when you really live this out, people notice. They'll say, "Why are you always so calm? Why don't things rattle you the way they rattle me?" And that's your chance to smile and say, "Because I don't fight with reality, I reframe it." And that's not just clever, that's power. Because think about it, negativity is contagious, but so is perspective. And every time you choose reframing, you're not just changing the temperature for yourself, you're changing it for the room. You're setting the standard. You're proving that happiness isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in the way we talk about them. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you hear yourself spiraling, stop, pause, acknowledge reality, add perspective, and watch how it shifts not just the mood of the conversation, but the mood of your day. Because once you learn to master reframing, you're no longer a victim of circumstance, you're an architect of perspective. And when you master perspective, you master peace. And that, right there, is the trick. That's how you boost your mood instantly. That's how you take back power, not by waiting for life to change, but by changing the way you communicate about it. And that's not just a communication hack, that's a life hack.